Real quick, I know I'm a little bit late with this chapter view. It was because I was busy working on the last video, which was Berserk as a Romance. Personally, I'm really proud of that video, so if you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend it. I know I'm like handing myself a medal, but hey, you gotta be proud of yourself every now and then. Oh, and if you are new to the channel, if you haven't subscribed, considering subscribing and turning on the bell notifications and liking the videos, that always helps a bunch. Without further ado, let's get into this chapter. All right, this just feels like I'm being edged a lot, and I don't know how much more I can handle. Following the aftermath of Griffith showing up on the island, Zod showing up on the island, and then Griffith taking Casca, we now see more of the consequences of all of this, as beings from the astral plane are now fading out of the physical world. At least that's one way to interpret it, as I've seen a lot of people talking about all these characters just dying like that. And I don't know if that's exactly the route I would go with all of this, although I could understand why you would. But we then continue the rest of this chapter, at first with it starting with them screaming out to Guts, "Where are you? Say something," and Puck himself saying that everything is falling apart. And I do want to take this because I think we're going to get more from Guts after this, which is why I brought up edging earlier. But the words that were used here, I think, still carry a lot of weight. For one, seeing a character like Guts be in such a distraught state like this, it's very clear the emotions that are being depicted are not anger. And I talked about this previously, is I think now we're getting a side to Guts that is much more mournful. And we've seen him have moments like this briefly, but the last time we really had an extensive moment of Guts just letting out tears or just these feelings of despair, distraught, pain, sadness, although pain is never ending with this guy, was after realizing that Casca had lost her mind following the aftermath of the eclipse. And the words that he uses where he says, "I can't even land one blow," and he's sort of holding on to his sword desperately, it kind of got me thinking a little bit how Guts' reassurance whenever he didn't have Casca was his sword. And now he can't even rely on that. Like that is the point where Guts is at. He's lost Casca once again, and not only that, but we can assume with all the other creatures we saw disappear, Puck could be included in that group as well. And Puck as a character, despite his role being more and more minuscule as time has gone on, I see that as a result more so of the other characters that have been added to the entourage over the years, right? You had that period in time where it was just Guts and Puck, and he could serve as the voice of reason. But many characters have been added to the entourage since that point, and Guts as well as a character has also changed, moving a bit away from that dark period he was in during Black Swordsman and Conviction, where I think Puck could really stand out. So, nonetheless though, Puck is extremely important because outside of the people who have recently been joining the entourage, during Guts' darkest moment, Puck was his only companion. So to lose Casca, to lose Puck, and then you add on top of that, when all else failed, he had his sword since his childhood, really, and now he can't even depend on that. You quite literally have pushed Guts to the furthest extent he could go. And I think that's why that specific line of dialogue was chosen. And at the very end of the chapter, it says, "The tranquil aftermath of a storm that swept away everything but despair." I really love that line, because I really think it encapsulates just how defeated Guts is. And I think in the upcoming chapter or chapters, it's going to be interesting to get further reactions from the other characters regarding this entire situation, because these last 4 chapters have been a lot at once. Griffith shows up, takes Casca, everything they had been working for, and then like half of their buddies just disappear. So like, it's pretty intense right now. And I want to go back to Guts, because of course, the final page where it gives you the line about sweeping away everything but despair, I think his facial expression in that final page is very interesting, because if that doesn't scream, I am debating, I am contemplating some pretty wild shit, then I don't know what does. Like, I just imagine the thousands of thoughts that might be going through Guts' head. I mean, what resort does he have left? The Berserk armor, the Baylet. Like, what more does he have to do? Because he's tried everything of his own willpower. He's tried, and it has failed. And I think this is one of those inciting incidents that really pushes Guts' character in a certain direction. I mentioned this, and I've been talking about it a lot, but is really the largest turning point we're going to be getting for a while. And so, again, going back to the whole edging thing, it's just like, man, we're getting there slowly but surely, and I'm really excited to just see what direction we see with Guts. And there is one slight concern that I understand, and that's the little dialogue we've gotten from Guts, because in many moments before, I mean, you think back to the Hill on Swords, where Guts is encountered with Griffith, we see a lot of his inner thoughts. We do. And in very intense moments, we tend to get that. But now we can only speculate what he's thinking through the expressions we're getting from him and what he's feeling. And I think the facial expressions have done a really good job of communicating that. Again, something I've expressed in the chapter before this one and in the chapter before that, but you know, it is what it is. Also, real quick, if I haven't mentioned it already, I felt like the artwork in this chapter was the most consistent, especially in comparison to the last chapter. But, you know, so it's going to be nice to see the team get adjusted to this and get better and better with their artwork as this continues. And so my overall thoughts on this chapter is the same as the one before this one. I think Berserk as a series is at a huge turning point, and we are seeing sort of the resolution stage of this arc before we enter into the next one, right? Not everything can be this giant climax all the time. So we're getting that sort of down motion where, you know, things are going to settle in and we get to really think about all this information that we've been given. And however, I will say that the extent of the turning point, I did not in any shape or form predict that like Puck and the other astral beings were gonna get just wiped from existence like that. Although, again, in the sense of maybe them just returning to the astral plane, death, I don't know if I'd go that far. Also, I feel like I'm being real stupid. We don't explicitly see anything happen to Puck. As well as Puck was existing in the world before the merging of the astral and the physical plane. So I don't know if it'd actually be correct to include Puck in that group. Although there was a little panel where we see a group of elves disappearing, and one of them, is like the one on the far left, looked like Puck, but so did the one all the way on the far right. Like, they had the same hair and everything, so I don't know if, I don't know. And just in case anybody is still on the notion that Berserk's just wiped these characters and they're dead for good, Danon herself says that we cannot remain in the corporeal world. And I'm wondering for the next couple chapters if we're going to continue to get the perspective from Guts' side, or maybe we're going to switch to a different perspective with Griffith and Casca. If I were to put money on it, I would bet we would still stick with Guts in the group, as again, I feel like this is just all one big aftermath stage, the conclusion of an arc, and we're getting this resolution period. And I think finally these next few chapters we're going to be getting a lot more dialogue from Guts. I feel like I've been saying that since like 2 or 3 chapters ago. But anyways, let me know your thoughts on this chapter. As always, new to the channel, like, comment, subscribe. This has been the Masked Man. Hope everyone has a blessed rest of the day, and peace.